All right, so this is probably like my sixth or seventh batch of moonshine, and I found a really easy way to make it. Oh, I got a little too hot, see it's dripping too fast there. You only want a couple drips. I had it set. Let's see here. Turn it off a little bit here. Um, so I learned how to make this from. Actually, I've watched a bunch of videos, but the easiest one was from this redneck guy. It's like a video from the 90s. The guy has bibbed overalls on, and he made it in a cooler. And turns out you don't need distilled water either. You can just use tap water. If you search for the video, just type in like Tennessee moonshine, learn how to make moonshine or something. But it's just three things: sugar, water, and cornmeal. And you put it in a cooler, and of course, some yeast at the end. And it's basically 1 gallon of water, 1 pound of sugar, and then 1 pound of cornmeal. And then you put it in the cooler to keep it warm. But the ideal temperature is what I do. I get it down to like 90, and then it actually heats up like 1 degree for the first few days. And then on the last day, on the third night, it'll go up to 93, is what I found anyways. And um, and that's about it. And then I take a little pump like I got there, and I pump it out of the cooler, make sure not to suck up the cornmeal. So I kind of like, there's my pump, like a little fish tank pump, and then I pull it up to make sure I don't suck up the cornmeal, and I kind of just slowly let it down into the cooler, and I try my best not to suck up the cornmeal. But then I just pump it into here, and then you can get these on Amazon. This is the 18-gallon one. I think $170 or something like that. And then I bought this. This is an extension because the other one was all short and it like fell off one time. You don't want to be dripping that shit next to the flame. So I bought that. That was the only thing I did. But that's the easiest way to make it. I'll make a video someday on like with more in-depth stuff. But make sure it's basically for every 5 gallons. You have to get the what's called the 4 shots. The first, basically for every 5 gallons, 50 milliliters. You want to throw that away. So if you're doing 10 gallons, that'd be 100 milliliters at least. I go safe. I do 200, just to not mess around. But I'll do a video at some point when I get better at this and like get more in depth in it. But it's pretty simple. The pump that I bought though, I bought a more heavy duty pump for pumping water into the that part of the still that cools down the steam, because this one just wasn't cutting it. And I just use my pool in the wintertime. At least here in Arizona, it's like a perfect temperature. You don't have to go buy ice. I used to, in the summertime, you have to use like a cooler, put ice on it, and it obviously costs more money, and it's just a pain in the ass. But I just use my pool, pump the water through this thing, and let's see here, what temp am I at now? I need to get a Fahrenheit gauge. This thing's in Celsius. That's probably it needs to be at like 173, which is that first mark on there, which is like 72 degrees Celsius. I don't know what in Celsius it needs to be. Look this stuff up, but it's 173 is basically when it starts burning off, steaming the alcohol out. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, I bought these hoses. I went and got from the hardware store, better hoses. The ones that came with it were pretty small and janky. And then I bought this too, the turkey fryer thing. I was trying to do it on an electric deal, and I just couldn't find an electric stove that was cheap enough, because you need a 2500 watt or something like that. And all I could find was a 1500, and with that big of a deal, it just won't get it that hot with a big of a still. Like maybe you could do it with a smaller still with a 1500 watt, but that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of videos out there. There's one guy that does it. he does it really well as far as like explaining it, and he's like in his house in his kitchen. However, the way he makes the wash, the part of the moonshine that like you make into obviously, or before you actually boil it, his way is like hard. Try to find the Tennessee redneck guy, and maybe I'll put the link in the video. It's so easy. You just do it in a cooler with cornmeal, sugar, and water, and some yeast. And make sure you get champagne yeast. That's really important. I think the brand is Star champagne yeast. And so to give you an idea, to do the 10 gallons, I put in 3 packets of the Star champagne yeast. They come in like little square packets, and that seems to be the best so far. I got this was at 10% when I checked it this morning, and that's the best yet. Before I've got it between like 5 and 7, but this has been the best yet. So keep it, or put it in the cooler at 90 degrees. Mix it up. You got to mix it up really good. And then I watched another video too. A guy said he had like a drill with like a mixer on it. He says it was important to get oxygen in there. I don't have one of those, but still when I was mixing it, I was kind of mixing it somewhat violently to try and get some oxygen in there. But you just let it sit for 4 days. You check it 3 days, there's no alcohol. By the 4th day, you'll have alcohol. That last night is when it really starts to work, that 3rd night. But I don't know what else I can tell you about this, but there it is. And you want it to drip out about like that. Maybe a little bit more, but that's good to go right there.